I first discovered Jim Butcher's Dresden Files series while sitting on the fringes of a few book-related conversations at work. Whenever our usual shop talk turned to Harry Blackstone Copperfield Dresden, Chicago's first and only wizard private investigator. I would marvel as my coworkers quoted verbatim, I might add, a number of Mr. Dresden's sassier lines, and I would often try to piece together a general plotline from those one-liners. I work with an extremely well-read group of people, and to have 4 people vouch for the same author and series made it irresistible to a lady like me. And lo, I have fallen under the spell of the Dresden Files proper. Given my love for dark, pulpy detective novels and for the horror meets hilarity of the show Supernatural, Jim Butcher's prolific Dresden Files series was the perfect match for me. So without further ado, I offer a quick intro to the first 3 books. I have to get this out of the way first. I hate the covers of the Dresden Files series. I would never have picked up Stormfront on my own based on this cover. I know that would have been a monumental mistake on my part, but seriously, was there no better cover? Stormfront opens with a flurry of events for our man Dresden. Within the span of a few hours, he's contracted by a woman named Monica Sells, who's looking for her husband Victor, an amateur magician who's gone AWOL. He's also hauled in by Lieutenant Karen Murphy, Director of Special Investigations for the Chicago Police Department, to consult on 2 corpses who are found with their hearts blown clean out of their chests. And he's also threatened off the case by gentleman Johnny Marcone, the lord of Chicago's criminal underworld. All in all, a busy morning. Not to mention a dangerous new drug called Third Eye, which allows normal humans to see the world through a wizard's unfiltered eye, is driving users insane and filling the streets with more danger than it's worth. Dresden's one of the chief suspects for the magical murders, given he's pretty much the only high-profile wizard on the scene. And he's got to figure out how the dots connect before he runs into even deeper trouble in the long run. First off, I love the pacing of Butcher's books. His chapters are short and action-packed, and trust me, trying to put Stormfront down in order to go to bed proved rather difficult. Dresden's a sassy son of a bitch, but he's not obnoxious about it. Not to mention, Butcher humanizes Dresden in a way that most books of this genre don't. For instance, when he first sees the remains of Jennifer Stanton and Tommy Tom, he does what any human would do. He's violently ill. He's not the hardened detective anymore. He's the guy looking at a gruesome crime scene who's completely overwhelmed by the reality of it all. I have to admit, I admire a hero who's human. I know I mentioned this to the guys at work, but I found it completely hilarious that this is clearly a series written for men. Every woman in the series is smoking hot and apparently wants to sleep with our man Dresden. Maybe it's something about his leather duster and his impressive blasting rod. I can't. That nitpick aside, I was glued to these pages by the end. And wow, what a chaotic ending. No spoilers, but wow, a burning house and a fierce demon later, you guys. Overall, I gave Stormfront 4 out of 5 stars. Once again, Dresden's called on by Lieutenant Karen Murphy and the Chicago Police Department to consult on an unusual and vicious murder scene. This time, one of gentleman Johnny Marcone's men has been found savaged with a series of wolfish paw prints around him. Without telling Murphy, Dresden uses his magic to track the scent of the killer, which leads him to a dead end in the form of a gang of teenage werewolves and their mysterious leader, Tara West. But trouble's just on the horizon for Dresden. Bodies are starting to pile up, and Murphy is fuming over the fact that Dresden continues to leave her and the police department in the dark about the supernatural set. However, with more than one subspecies of werewolf stalking Chicago's streets, Dresden's got to figure things out fast before his friends become the next greatest threat. I was not as sold on Full Moon as I was on Stormfront. A lot of that admittedly has to do with my general disinterest in werewolves. And as I mentioned, there are 4 different types of werewolf in this novel. I had a bit of trouble tracking which group of people was which type of werewolf, which made Full Moon a little less enjoyable. That being said, I definitely fell in love with Murphy in this one. I mean, I was supportive of her tiny ball of fury mixed with her sense of responsibility, but when she slides between Dresden and a rampaging werewolf to protect him, wait, she does that twice. That's my Murphy. Compared to Stormfront, I gave Full Moon 3 out of 5 stars, but you should not skip this book as the series follows a chronological order, and you need to understand why Dresden and Murphy have some bad blood between them. No spoilers. In the first 2 books of the series, you tussle with wayward wizards, fierce demons, flighty fairies, savage werewolves, and posh yet nightmarish vampires. I think it's about time for some ghosts, yes? Grave Peril opens with Dresden and Michael Carpenter, a Knight of the Cross, squaring off against a powerful ghost threatening a hospital room full of infants. The 2 are forced to cross over into the Never Never, or the supernatural realm, to defeat the ghost, and they are nearly ensnared by Dresden's fairy godmother, whose name I can't really pronounce. She's got a contract on Dresden that's delightfully complicated, and I will resist spoilers. Dresden's got his hands full with a young seer named Lydia and a demonic creature known only as the Nightmare. The Nightmare enters the dreams of its victims and wraps their soul in cold barbed wire, leaving a tortured, raving lunatic in its wake. Or, in the case of Dresden, draining a huge portion of his magic and leaving him utterly defenseless. At the same time, the Red Court of the Vampires has invited Dresden to a party as a representative of the Wizards' White Council. You could even call it the hottest ticket in town. That's a pun, and now you have to read the book to find out why. To protect his friends, Dresden needs answers. But with his powers faltering and fizzling out, can he even protect himself? Grave Peril was awesome, not gonna lie. I wish Murphy had a greater role, but I will overlook that for the time being. In terms of new characters, I fell in love with Thomas Wraith, a White Court vampire who I'm told reappears in later books. He's just so blasé about everything. At the Red Court's party, there's a moment where Dresden downs a glass of wine and Thomas just kind of saunters over and says, "Oh, the wine's been poisoned. Oh, you drank some?" I love it. I also like that Butcher's taking his time teasing out Dresden's personal history. Dresden's a troubled guy who's trying to redeem himself, but he's also got a dark streak to him that he's got to keep a tight grip on. And I'm excited to find out more about where he's come from and where he's headed to. As a result, I gave Grave Peril 4 out of 5 stars. I know this video was longer than my usual reviews, given I had a lot of ground to cover. So you feeling the 3-in-1 book reviews, or do you prefer a more in-depth 1 book review? And also, have I piqued your interest in Mr. Dresden, or are you already a fan? Either way, once you've stumbled into the world of the Dresden Files, there's no way out aside from pressing on and reading more, so I do hope you enjoy. Signing off.